Hi, today we're going to jump way in the back of your iReady book. We're going to skip way on to page 241. 241's got some lessons about eliminating wordiness and redundancy. When you're writing, sometimes you're using words you really don't need to use. So the idea is you want to be clear. You're not wasting your time and the time of the reader, me in this case. So I'm going to read through this. I'll explain how to do some of these, and then you'll do the multiple choice on 242. Okay. So turn 241. I'm going to read along and explain this as we go. Good writers know that every word counts in revising your writing. Use fewer words. Edit your writing to remove unnecessary words and phrases. Delete phrases that don't add meaning. This paper will focus on the Great Migration and the reason why it had a huge impact on urban life in the United States. So saying things like, in this paper I'm going to do this, or I believe that, you don't need to ever say those words, because when you're writing something, we know this is what you're writing about by just saying it, okay? Sometimes, though, I do know it's hard to get going on writing. So if it helps you to start with, in this paper, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of animals as pets. You can get rid of that after, when you go back to edit it. Just take in this paper, I'm going to talk about, scratch all that off, and start with the pros and cons of having animals as pets. That makes sense? Okay. Use one word in place of a phrase. During the time that World War I broke out, old factories in northern cities had a need for more workers. Change to when World War I broke out, factories in northern cities needed more workers. And delete any repeated information. Delete or combine words or phrases that repeat an idea. By the end of 1919, a million African Americans had left, leaving the South for cities and urban cities like Chicago, New York, and Detroit. So in this, by the end of 1919, a million African Americans had left the South for cities like Chicago, New York, and Detroit. So it gets rid of some of the words. You really don't need them in there. The idea is actually it makes it easier on you because you're writing shorter. You're being very succinct. You're scanning the message across. And think about it this way. You don't want to read a really long text from someone or a long message from your teacher. You rather them just get to the point, say what's going on, and then move on to the next thing. Also, it's much easier, like I said, for the reader to understand what you're talking about. Also, if you notice, none of my papers have a word count. There's no need for it. So I'd rather you clearly tell me what's going on than add all these extra words you don't really need. Okay. So revise your sentence to eliminate the wordiness. So it says a hint on the side. I'm looking down here now. Ask yourself which of these words can I delete without changing the main idea? Which phrases can I replace with just one word? The Great Migration was the largest, biggest mass movement of people in U.S. history. So largest, biggest, both kind of mean the same thing. So I get rid of biggest. It's not really a great word anyway. The Great Migration was the largest mass movement of people in U.S. history. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So I'm just taking out one word. Okay. So in the early 1900s, at the turn of the century, most African Americans lived in the South. So early 1900s and turn of the century both mean the same thing. And 1900s are a little more specific because people get confused with turn of the century, because now it would mean 2000, not 1900. So in the early 1900s, it crops that off. Most African Americans lived in the South. They worked as sharecroppers, farming the land as part of the sharecropper system. Got sharecroppers under twice, so I'm going to take something out. They worked as sharecroppers. Probably get rid of that whole second half. See where the period is? I would change that period, that comma to a period. They worked as sharecroppers, period. Unless you think it's more important for them to know what sharecropper. So you're going to have to look it up no matter what. So I would simply say they worked as sharecroppers. So this is basically making things shorter, making it more succinct. That makes sense? I know I asked you to write them out, but to be honest, I don't really mind just taking out the words that you want to take out. Then when you go to page 242, 242, these are ones where basically you're going to do the multiple choice. Numbers 1 through 4, choose the answer that best revises the sentence without changing the meaning. I guess that's the main point also. When you're taking out words, make sure you're not losing the meaning of the sentence. So number 1, African American people and families wanted to live free and from poverty and violence. Yeah, I think I know what I take out of that. Newspaper ads telling about jobs that were located in the North and the West were able to convince people to move to those areas of the country. Come along. Number 3, sometimes one family member moved first. Later, the whole family was reunited together. Again, kind of like saying the same thing twice. And number 4, by the 1970 year, Great Migration is considered to have ended. The South was home to fewer than half of all African Americans in the United States. So again, same kind of thing. Figure out what you don't need in there, make it shorter, and still keep the same idea. All right. Have any questions on this, as always, let me know. Send me a message, email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you. Have a good day.